The two blended assignments I'm going to be talking about come from week 4 and week 11. Starting off with week 4, the videos I observed were small group individualized math instructions, encouraging students to take action when a lesson goes wrong, part 1, as well as part 2, a closer look at Toni Morrison's Beloved, and solving problems using collaborative math talks. These videos were focused on grade levels 3rd, 4th, 9th, 10th, and 12th grade. Moving on to the summary, to the reflection. Starting off with the students in the first video are engaged, and when they get called on, they work in their desk. This video shows how the teacher interacts with one student than with two boys. Students have one-to-one time with the teacher, and they actually interact with her. The students in the second video were asked to work with their groups to do a poster of cause and effects, and they would say things like, "Do you have an idea for the tree?" when she saw he wasn't really talking, which is bringing them to the conversation. In the video 3, the students were not focused on the lesson, nor did they find it engaging. This is the opposite of most of the videos we observed throughout the class, which is when the lesson goes wrong, part 1 and 2. It seems that they have more side conversations rather than the actual topic conversations. Her method of trying to get them back together was just saying shh, but they would still continue talking. But the teacher doesn't give up. She continues on with the second video with another group of students. She does it a little bit different, changes some things up to make it better, which does work for better compared to the first try. And then the students in the fifth video were engaged, and they seem to show that they actually paid attention to the book Beloved. You could see it because they have long and good conversations with the groups, even when the teacher's not there. They would talk about, for example, a student tells another student, people would have supported her if she wouldn't have been so proud, and another group member goes, "Oh, that's an observation," and they continue to talk about why they thought that. And then in the sixth video, the students were engaged with the lesson. They would explain the reason, their response, and the whole class that would allow the students to comment or learn from one another. And then for the teacher's side, the teacher worked with the students and was very proud of how they worked. In the first video, she would say a lot of things like "great job," "thank you." And in the second video, the teacher would walk around and be helpful to the students. He would go and ask them to talk about some examples and talk about real life situations, for example, police brutality. And then in the third video, which is when a lesson goes wrong, the teacher seems to not give up. Just like I mentioned before, she keeps trying and trying. Even though the students are not listening to her, she never really gets frustrated or gets mad. And in the fifth video, she talks to the students in a positive aspect, and he never really responds to a negative way. Instead, he says things like "fantastic." And in the sixth video, the teacher is well organized and would give it time to think about the answer before sharing with the partner and the whole class. And then that was just some observations from week 4. Moving on to week 11, the videos were Act of Persuasion, Number Talks in 2nd grade, Project Earth Game, How Tall is the Flagpole, and Counting the Collections to 100. These ones are focused in 1st, 2nd, 5th, junior high, and 11th grade. Going on to the reflection part, in the first video, the students participate in the lesson, but they seem a little bit more quieter compared to the other class videos we observed. The students in the second video, though, show respect towards the teacher by answering a full sentence, which many teachers do that and many don't. And in the third video, the students seem to be excited about the lesson, since it was mostly like the game one. They would get excited and talk about it with their friends and make it like if they're really in the situation by saying things like, "I really need to get paid soon." In the fourth video, the students are good at participating and doing what they are asked. They would answer each time the teacher would ask a question, and most of the time they would just blur it out without having to raise their hand of how excited they were. In the fifth video, the students would get loud multiple times. They would even argue with each other, even though they were supposed to be discussing the answer. But when they wouldn't agree, there was a bit of commotion around there. And moving on to the teacher portion, in the first video, the teacher would keep the class conversation going. She would go around and ask questions, while in the second video, the teacher would have them working in groups. and if not as a whole class, she would have them read all together multiple times and would also allow them to help each other, which was really good for them. In the third video, the teacher was more like a game host rather than a teaching. Most of the time, this is when the game won. So she would read the questions out and have them communicate with them, and she wouldn't really say why they should pick what. She would just let them decide as a whole class. And lastly, in the fifth video, the students would work with their classmates even though it would get out of hand sometimes. She would walk around and have them communicate or fix it or move it around. And that's basically all of the important parts from week 11 and week 4.